But as well as that, our hearts get bigger, our lungs get bigger. And what also happened is during this time, we started to develop relationships with running. So for example, running or physically exerting ourselves started to actually feel good. And the reason why is because if we need to go out and look for food, we want that to become a habit. So we get a good feedback loop no matter what, which is why we get the runner's high, for example. It's encouraging us to keep going. That's the reason why running provides all the benefits that I previously listed, right? So how do we keep going? How do we make sure that we're able to keep running? Now, let's have a look first off at sleep. Put your hands up, please, if you give yourself not 8 hours sleep, but the opportunity for 8 hours of sleep a night. That means you're in bed for 8 hours. Okay, amazing. So, the opportunity, giving yourself the opportunity is key, because you're probably going to wake up and you might toss and turn during the night, not a problem. But giving yourself the potential for 8 hours sleep becomes a habit. Now, the reason why this is important is that, first of all, we don't have the adaptive capacity to deal with a lack of sleep. It's something that our ancestors have never had to deal with until the 9 to 5 came around, until working life came around. Now, the benefit of getting more sleep, first of all, the levels of inflammation in our body goes down. If inflammation goes down, it means our arteries don't become as stiff, which means you're less likely to suffer from heart disease, but it also means that your performance increases because your arteries are healthier. The other thing is, because our inflammatory levels are reducing, it means we're also less likely to suffer from dementia, but we're also more likely to have an emotional budget to enable us to push ourselves when we exercise. So I'd heavily recommend that you give yourselves the opportunity for 8 hours sleep if you can. If you struggle with sleep, then sleeping in a dark room, making sure that it's cool, but then as well as that, you can experiment with lavender supplements, chamomile tea before you go to bed, etc. I'm going to whiz over diet as well. The good thing about diet is it's much more important what you put into your diet rather than what you take out. So this is quite different to what we have thought of diet, because most of the time we're trying to take stuff out of our diet, for example, to lose weight, right? Now, the evidence shows that if we can get as many plants in our diet as possible, i.e. if your plate looks like you could have picked it from your garden or as close as possible to that, it means that once again, our fiber's increasing, that means our satiety increases. Research shows that if we consume just a small plate of fruit or vegetables or salad before we eat, then our overall calorie consumption drops by 20% anyway, because we're fuller up, because we're more full. We don't feel like we need to grab for unhealthy foods, for example. But once again, inflammation goes down. And the reason why is that plants have something called antioxidants in them. Now, antioxidants are actually to protect the plants against threats, but we've evolved the ability to absorb their protective capability and take it into our own bodies to protect our bodies against threat. So rule of thumb, get as many plants in your diet as possible. Try to consume them at the forefront of the meal, rather than wait until the end, because if you wait until the end, you might already be too full up to consume them. If you wanted the creme de la creme, then you want to eat the rainbow. If you eat the rainbow, then you're going to get a far greater variety of different nutrients into your body. And the reason why is the colour of fruits and vegetables corresponds to the different nutritional benefits that they give us. All right, cool. So we'll get on to the more focused part now, which is your running. So I need, let's go through just a quick running program setup. So put your hands up if you run more than twice a week. Okay, cool. Now, do you run the same distance every time, or do you tend to vary it? Do you tend to vary speed and things like that?
Very distance.
Very distance, okay, perfect.
So speed depending on how I feel.
Yeah, good, okay, good. So there's two, what's your name, sorry?
Kath.
Kath, so there's two things that you alluded to, Kath. So first of all, is you're manipulating your volume, right? So volume would be distance, for example. If you manipulate your volume, especially if you polarize it, so if two distances are quite different to each other, you might say 5K and 2K, something like that, then you tend to vary the adaptation that your body gets. So two good reasons for this. One, the adaptation is varied, which means that you're more adaptive, so you're less likely to suffer from an injury. But two, you are more likely to be able to, say, run quick, but also run at high volume. So it means that your sporting capacity increases as well. It means that you could vary between the distances that you're, for example, training to compete at, if you wanted to compete in running. I would recommend that anyone who is running more than twice a week, does polarize, you do polarize your training if you can. So you vary distance, you vary speed, you could even experiment with interval runs. So for example, that could be a ratio of 2 to 1. You run for 100 meters, walk for 200 meters, run for 100 meters, walk for 200 meters. And that's just to, once again, widen that pyramid so you can peak higher. Yeah? All right. Now, the other, which we'll go on to later, is how you can condition your bodies to make sure that you are more resilient when it comes to injuries. But to start off with, I would like to look at running form, if that's all right. And that is to make sure that you are running as efficiently as possible. All right. I need a volunteer for someone who is interested in how they could change their running form to reduce their discomfort or to increase their speed or increase their efficiency. Any volunteers?
I would, but I've got a dodgy knee.
Yeah, that's all right, no problem.
Come on, Phil.
Oh, dodgy knee.
Did you just run?
No.
Who just run? Yeah? Should we go?
Come on, Jay.
Yeah, well, it was... it's- So we're going to come back to this concept of running as a controlled fall. All right, so...
Bit smart fall off.
Alright, what's your name, sorry? Julie. Yes. Nice to meet you, Julie. So, all I want you to do is from this door here, I just want you to nicely, I want you to run into this door and back. That's it, cool. Cheers, thank you. Yeah, that's it, and just keep going for me, please. All right, so.
Let me cough again.
So, what you might hear is this. Do you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So you do trying to slow down at the same time as speed up. So that's something that we can look at. The other thing is like keep going, Julia, not too much longer. But other than that, Julie looks very efficient, she's very light on her feet. You can say that she's a mid-foot runner because her mid-foot is touching the floor beforehand. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Feel free to take a seat, Julie.
Well done, Julie.
So there's a few things that we're looking for when people run, right? So one, which we spotted to start off with was just not as extreme as that. I'm a lot heavier than you. But this scuffing sound, right? Now what's happening is every time we scuff, we're having to work against the resistance of the ground. So we might even say in Julie's case that one movement cue for Julie is to drive the knee forward a little bit more. So if you drive the knee forward, then we're actually going to be landing on top of the floor rather than scuffing it, right? Now that might indicate that you might have reduced power in your hip, or it could be that you're trying to protect your knee, for example. One of the muscles that attaches into the knee, into the quadriceps rectus femoris. Rectus femoris attaches to the pelvis here, and that is the movement that rectus femoris does. So it might be that your knee injury and your attention or your protective capacity or your protective strategy to slow down is starting to affect other movement patterns. Another common thing that we might see when people run is this. So it's where certain muscles are a little bit more dominant than others. Once again, we're reducing knee drive, and at the same time, we're reducing that person's efficiency. Another thing that we see really commonly is this. Right, so the classical kind of heel striker. Now the reason why a lot of us do this is, if you look at your running shoes, a lot of them are quite built up in the heel, so we tend to use that heel as a spring. The issue with this is we are essentially clawing at the ground rather than landing on the ground. Now what I'd like everyone to do is pick a partner and stand up for me, please. All right, so I think someone demonstrate with. Kathy? Is it Kath? Kath. All right, so me and Kath are going to join hands here. Right, now from here, we're just going to run on the spot. And then bit by bit, me and Kath are going to then start to push into each other. Here, right, perfect, good stuff. Try and push me back a bit. Right, now what Kath's doing, where's she landing? She's landing on her midfoot, right? And as well as that, we know that Kath is putting force in the right direction because she's pushing me back. So what I want you all to do is run with your partner, hands together, and just exert an equal amount of force onto each other's hands. And I just want you to tell me how that feels in comparison to how you might normally feel when you're running. Yeah, be careful not to push each other over. Good together? Alright, so 10 seconds. Good, drive the knees forward. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and rest. Perfect. Alright? Good. So, did that feel any different to how you guys might normally run? About the same?
Yeah.
Perfect, then it's good, then you're all running very efficiently. Now, one way that you could just groove that before you actually start running is you could, as a drill, do that, or you could put your hands against the wall and practice trying to run into the wall and exert force onto the wall before you run, just to make sure that you're hitting that movement cue as efficiently as possible. Now, what we're going to go through now is a movement assessment that we use at the clinic, just to measure someone's muscular balancing and their ability to absorb force and distribute force when they're running. So once again, I just need a volunteer, please.
Oh, yeah, you felt all right then.
Yeah? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have a look. It's Phil, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, alright, cool. So, Phil, if you'd like to face the audience to me, please.
Oh.
So, like I said, what we're looking for is Phil's ability to distribute force when he's running. So we're going to go through a movement assessment that you can all do in yourselves in front of a mirror, just to see if there's anything that you need to work on. So, Phil, if you'd like to stand on one leg for me, please. Alright, so, and relax.
Oh, it's not this 10-second test again, is it?
No, you're all good. Relax.
I read that one, do you remember?
So relax, Phil.
Yeah.
As in, like, put your foot down.
Oh, sorry.
So, try again. Stand on one leg.
I'm standing on different leg, same leg, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. Okay, good stuff. So it feels pretty solid. Now, what we would be looking for is a deviation over this hip. If Phil starts to deviate over that hip, these muscles don't have to work so hard. It indicates that they might be a little bit weaker. But what we're also looking for is a drop in that pelvis here. That also indicates that these muscles are weaker. Now, from here, Phil, I just want you to try and push that knee over the foot. So push push your left knee over your left toe.
Sorry,
So from here. From here, you're going to push the left
oh,
knee
bend
over
my
the
knee.
toe.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, sorry.
What we're looking for here is whether or not Phil can maintain
No,
his
I know. I'm right-handed,
That's
right
fine,
leg,
that's
but
fine.
obviously, yeah, that's why.
Alright, so here we've got Phil's
That
knee,
knee's
which is
fine.
deviating over the outside of his foot, which is good. You see how he is turning that way a little bit more, right? Now, the issue is with running is we need that knee to be able to stabilise itself on the outside of the foot to make sure that force distributes evenly throughout the leg here. And back to normal, please. I'm not going to ask you to do it on your right knee just because I don't know what's going on with it.
Yeah, it's the ligament, that's what.
Oh,
I'm gonna see
MCL.
you for.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. So if you can
8
stand
weeks.
with your feet shoulder width apart, turned out at 10 to 2. So imagine a clock 10 to 2.
Like that?
Both sides. Like 10 to 2. Like this. Like that.
Oh, ballet.
That's it. So from here,
Your mum did.
I just want you to sit down and just push the knees to the outside of the feet. So we've got really nice hip mobility here. We can close that gap here, which is really, really good. And we've got good ankle mobility because the knees can go over the toes and the back is more or less dead straight. Stand up for me, please. Now we're going to do the same thing with the hands above the head. That's it on both sides. That's it, and go back down for me, please. Sorry, squat for me, please. So,
Oh, right.
from here. That's it. So here
So
we
it's
can,
been a couple of months since I've been let out, you know?
so here we can see that the arms are matching the angle of the tibia. So that's really good for his shoulder mobility and his hip mobility. And then back up for me, please. All right, and relax.
All right, actually, then.
Yeah.
He's
works
made
his
it,
magic
I told you.
Holy moly.
From here, you're going to stand on your tiptoes. Good. Now what we're looking for here is calf power. So as we walk, I want to see if Phil can keep his heels nice and high as he walks. Which he can, which is really good.
That is so more true than you know.
And back down. Now, all we do from here, Phil, is jump on the spot 5 times for me, please. 1, 2, very nice. 4, 5. Now the good thing, that's it. Good thing about
Yeah.
Phil when he does this, was that painful?
No, so I can't count. I've done
Oh, okay.
6.
Good thing about Phil when he does this is the amount of time he's spending on the floor is minimal. Some people when they do this, they'll dead it each time. But Phil can maintain a good stretch reflex in his calves, which is essential for running. Next thing we're going to do from here, and I'll tell you why we're going to go for this in a second, is I want Phil to jump forward and back 5 times. 1, 2, 3.
As far as I can, or just normal?
Just normal. How did that feel?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's
Starting to
a
feel
little
that
bit, little bit there. Yeah.
Now, the reason why Phil's starting to feel that more is when he goes forward and back, he's starting to pick up on shear forces going through the knee and going through the ankle as well. So that'd indicate that you might not be able to dampen those forces as well as you would like. Now, normally we then go on to assessing just the right leg, but that's going to probably put that knee over the edge, so we don't want to do that. Thank you, Phil.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. No.
Now, what we can do when we have a good idea of where someone's limits are, and you can go through this assessment yourself and see what tends to tire you out, what feels more uncomfortable, is we can start to approach the outer circumference of someone's comfort zone, which is exactly where we want to be. So we can say that for Phil, it was a fairly novel, comfortable experience to do that movement on both legs. So therefore, if Phil can get better at doing this, going up and down was the most comfortable thing for Phil to do. So what we could do is then start to incorporate that as part of a conditioning regime. You already run, which is amazing. You develop metabolic stress when you run. Metabolic stress encourages your body to make an adaptation. But once it's made a general adaptation, or encouraged it to make a general adaptation, we want to encourage it to make a specific adaptation. So for Phil, it might be to develop the tissue around his knee a bit more, develop his calves a bit more, to develop his ability to handle those shear forces a bit more. So we've taken him 80% there with, say, a general run, even a stop-start run, absolutely fine. And then we can add a short conditioning regime on. Might only take 5 to 10 minutes, but it will make sure that you're less likely to suffer from injuries, maintains your mobility, for example. So this little circuit that we could do could look something like this. And everyone can join in with me if you like. So feet turned out at a 10 to 2. I'm going to go through some tempo overhead squats. So from here, hands above your head. You're going to sit back, push the knees over the toes as best as you can, and then back up. Good. 5, nice and slow, and again. 4, really good. 3 more. 3, good. 2 more. Good. Last one. Good. So we're developing a little bit more metabolic stress in the quads, in the glutes, as well as the postural muscles in the shoulders. Now, I want you to do one of 2 things. I want you to jump up and down, or I want you to jump forward and back 10 times. So whenever you're ready. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Next one, from here, hands in the air. See if you can touch one knee to the ground. If you can't, then just go for the squats instead. Just 5 on each side for me, please.
Oh, good.
10,
It's easier than I thought.
8, 7. That's all right.
Yes,
Good,
right.
good, really good.
Yes, good. I'm doing it quite
Perfect, perfect. Keep your hands on the from the beginning. 4,
5.
so 10 overall.
Oh, 10.
Yes, it's been
We're all right.
Okay,
been walking.
Can't do
Perfect.
forward lunges still.
good. So we've got impact through the jumps. We've got strength through the lunges. And now we just want a little bit more strength just through the calf. So I'll just show you this on one leg. So from here, you're going to tuck your foot behind. And then from this position, you're going to go up onto your tiptoes and back down. Take 2 seconds to go up, 2 seconds to go down. 10 times through, please. You might need to hold on to something for this. That's it. Good. Nice. If you don't hold on to something, you're working your stability more. If you do hold on to something, you're developing your strength. Nice.
So these are all general exercises that we should all be doing in order to make our muscles stronger, to allow for our running to
and
be
it's building that
strong.
wider base of the pyramid so you can peak higher, right? And these are very entry level. These are these are things that you could get very good at very, very quickly. After that, we've then got more advanced exercises. So we could go for example, a plank to a plank tap, where we're getting some core activation, and as well as that, some abdominal activation. We could go through thread the needle, so we're focusing on our ability to rotate a little bit more. You've got everything from a normal glute bridge to a single leg glute bridge. You've got, if you really wanted to start to do the, get quite advanced, you've got pistol squats and things like that. So there's loads of things that you can.
We've done a few of these on boot camps, less than 1%. I think you have, didn't
The
you?
sky's the limit. Now, the benefit of these movements, like I said, is they widen the base of your pyramid, but they keep you running for longer. Especially as we start to get further into our running and our bodies find it more difficult to deal with the volume, they need strength. Your body needs strength as a backup plan, and that's where all these exercises come in. The reason why it's beneficial to do it after you exercise is, first off, if you're running 3 days a week anyway, and you do these conditioning exercises after you run, you still get 3 rest days a week, 3 or 4 rest days a week, because you get that day after where you're not having to do it again. But the other thing is you're taking advantage of the fact that your body's already developed metabolic stress. So you've already gone that. It'd be the equivalent of swimming 100 meters and then jumping out and holding your breath for 60 seconds. You're adding on to the stress that you've already accumulated, so you're getting a bigger bang for your buck. All right? Cool. Any specific questions before we finish?
Only for me is that roller, to show them how to roll out.
Things that you can do.
Yes, how they can work out their muscles.
Yeah,
They're tight.
so you can use this for either use this as a bolster, or you can use it as an applicator. So I'll show you the difference. So if I wanted to use it as a bolster, then I would use it to make certain exercises, or to increase leverage on certain exercises, or to decrease leverage on certain exercises, right? So for example, for a back stretch. So if I wanted to stretch my back, I would use it as a bolster to fix, say, my thoracolumbar region. Hands here, and then from here, I'd use it to arch over. I'll put my hands over my head, and this is a really nice stretch for my mid back, but as well as that, my chest, right? So I'm using it as a fulcrum. But if I wanted to use it as an applicator, then I actually want to splay the muscles, and then from here, use it as an actual roller. This is where I'm using it to start to massage my lower back as much as possible. Now, key areas that you might want to focus on would be your lower back muscles. It would also be your glutes. So I can take my foot here, and I can roll up in this position. See how I'm creating leverage? So I'm winding my hip muscles up by externally rotating my leg. I could bring it over a little bit more if I wanted to. I could bring it to the side if I wanted to here. And I'm splaying this area to work my glutes. I could work over here to work my glutes a little bit more. I could also use it as a bolster and an applicator for my quads. So from here, if I extend my hips, then I'm stretching a lot of the muscles in my quads. If I then stretch the muscles around the knee and then roll, then that's a way that I can start to really get into areas a lot deeper, a lot more thoroughly. But it's really, the nice thing about foam rollers is that there's 100 different ways to use them. There's plenty of YouTube videos. You can't really do any harm with a foam roller, and the research shows that 30 to 60 seconds per area gives you plenty of relief. You know, it's not like you have to spend 10 to 15 plus minutes on it. You can just go as you need to.
Brilliant.
That's a really nice looking foam roller.
Yes,
Mine
yeah.
is really aggressive looking.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that, is that okay to still, you know, when
You
you're
can use it, but you don't.
think it's going to snap your spine or something.
Yeah, I think that was
Your
mine.
discomfort doesn't need to go above like a 4 or 5 out of 10. So you shouldn't be hurting when you're doing it. It should feel nice. Yeah, it should. Otherwise, you'd not be doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Would it be then that the roller's wrong, or maybe we're allowing too much weight on it?
Too much pressure.
Right.
Yeah. To be kind to yourself. You know, you're already doing hard work when you're running. It should be that running's your hard work, and then you get all the nice fun stuff to do after. Whether that's booking a nice relaxing massage, your foam roller, eating some nice foods, like whatever you like. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Any
That's
other
brilliant.
questions? Okay. So, has everyone got their phone on them? Yeah. Okay. So if you text, I'm going to give you my number. If you text me your name and email address, I'm going to send over an ebook that I've written called Iron Runner, and it's got everything that I've written and a little bit more on how you can, basically become a better runner. So it's got exercise plans on there and nutritional advice and more. So if you just so the number is 07714.
Hang on.
Sorry.
I've got the glasses.
No.
07714. Yeah. Okay.
Get off.
Send some
Was
miles
it
on.
0?
Yeah. So 07714 28 25 26. and then if you just put your first and last name, and then your email address, and I'll send all of that information over ASAP.
I can send it to you, Mike.
OW714. Right.
Well, I've sent it to someone.
What do you want on that? What do you want on that?
Full name and email address.